Okay, so today we're going to do a deep dive, and we're going to be looking at some popular sayings that we often kind of think are from Jesus,
Sure.
but actually, he never really said so.
Right.
We're going to be looking at a YouTube video from Godzeel,
Okay.
and it's called "Bro, Jesus Never Said That."
Yeah.
And this should be interesting to kind of dig into this and see, what
Yeah.
where some of these misunderstandings might be,
Mhm.
and what Jesus really did teach.
Yeah.
Now, joining me today to help us unpack all of this is our expert on biblical interpretation.
Oh.
So before we get into the specifics of the sayings, I'm just curious, like, what's the big deal about getting these attributions correct?
Well, I think, these sayings that we're going to be talking about, whether we realize it or not, they really become part of our
Yeah.
cultural fabric. They shape
Yeah.
how we view the world, how we make decisions. And I think when it comes to a religious figure like Jesus,
Mhm.
whose words carry so much weight for so many people, accuracy is really crucial. Misattributions can lead to skewed interpretations of faith and even mislead people on their spiritual journeys.
Yeah, that makes sense. We don't want to be building our beliefs on a shaky foundation.
Yeah.
Um, so let's just jump into the first one that the video talks about, follow your heart,
Okay.
versus Jesus' call to follow me. And I gotta say, follow your heart has always sounded pretty good to me.
Right.
So what's the issue here?
Well, I think the video highlights the the potential pitfalls of just blindly following your heart.
Yeah.
It refers to the biblical verse that
Hmm.
says, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked.
Oh, wow.
And I think the point there is not to say our emotions are inherently bad, but that they can sometimes lead us, down paths that aren't in our best interests,
Okay.
that aren't aligned with our spiritual growth or with a higher purpose.
So it's not about ignoring our feelings altogether,
Right.
but more about like realizing they don't always point us in the right direction.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like, your heart might be telling you to eat that entire chocolate cake,
Oh, yeah.
but hopefully your rational mind, informed by, your
Yeah.
values,
Yeah.
knows that, moderation is key.
Yeah.
And Jesus, in saying, follow me, is offering a different path, one that's based on his teachings and his example,
Mhm.
and that might require us to, question and sometimes even challenge our initial impulses.
That's a good point. So
Yeah.
how do we figure out then which heart desires are aligned with you following Jesus in our everyday lives?
Yeah, well, I think that's where discernment comes in. It's
Yeah.
a practice of examining our desires and our motivations. Are
Mhm.
they rooted in, love and compassion and generosity,
Yeah.
or are they driven by, ego and greed and a desire to harm ourselves or others? And it's it's an ongoing process. It's
Yeah.
about aligning our hearts with the teachings and the example of Jesus.
Okay, this is making me think quite a bit. So this next contrast really struck me. The saying "be true to yourself,"
Right.
which is very popular,
Mm-hmm.
versus Jesus's call to deny yourself and pick up your cross and follow me.
Yeah.
I mean, those seem pretty much opposite.
It is a powerful juxtaposition,
Yeah.
isn't it? I think the world, often emphasizes
Yeah.
self-expression and individuality,
Mm.
which, can be positive things.
Yeah.
But Jesus within, the Christian framework is calling for something deeper,
Hmm.
a self-denial. And again, it's not about self-hatred. It's about recognizing that our ego-driven desires can hinder our spiritual growth.
Yeah.
And picking up our cross,
Hmm.
symbolizes embracing hardship and sacrifice in service of something greater than ourselves.
Okay, so that sounds incredibly challenging in today's world.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of all the messages we're bombarded with. You live
Yeah.
your best life.
Yeah.
How does self-denial fit into that kind of culture?
Yeah, it's definitely a tension that we all have to grapple with. I think maybe it's about, recognizing when our desire to be true to ourselves
Mhm.
maybe conflicts with the needs of others
Mhm.
or with, ethical principles.
Hmm.
Perhaps it means choosing compassion over convenience or standing up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable.
Hmm.
It's an ongoing process of discerning when our self-expression aligns with or diverges from the path of following Jesus.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these sayings, while seemingly simple,
Yeah.
bring up some pretty complex issues.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, believe in yourself, classic motivational phrase,
Yeah.
versus Jesus saying, believe in me.
Right.
And I can see how those might be interpreted differently.
Yeah.
But can't they also coexist?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's about negating the importance of self-belief,
Mm-hmm.
which can be incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
But within Christianity, belief in Jesus is about placing your ultimate trust in a higher power,
Okay.
acknowledging that there's something greater than ourselves.
So it's about where we place our ultimate faith.
Exactly. Self-belief, fuels our actions and motivates us to pursue our goals.
Right.
But ultimately, Christian faith teaches that true fulfillment comes from our connection with God, from aligning our will with His.
Yeah.
It's not an either-or situation,
Yeah.
but rather understanding the different roles these types of belief
Okay.
play in our lives.
Okay, this next one gets a little philosophical.
Mhm.
The video contrasts the saying, live your truth, with Jesus' declaration, I am the truth.
Right.
I'm curious to unpack this one.
Yeah, this one gets to the heart of subjective versus objective truth.
Yeah.
Live your truth emphasizes personal experience,
Yep.
which is valuable, for understanding ourselves and others. But Jesus, within Christian belief, is presented as the embodiment of absolute, unchanging truth.
Okay.
And that can be challenging, especially in a world that, increasingly values individual perspectives.
Right. So how do we navigate a world where everyone seems to have their own truth? Does that mean there's no such thing as objective reality?
I think it's a complex issue,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure there's a simple answer. I think, think of it this way. Your experience of a spicy dish might be drastically different from mine.
Okay.
But the chemical composition of chili peppers remains consistent. Both experiences are valid, but one speaks to, personal preference, the other to, a verifiable fact.
Okay.
So it's about recognizing the different types of truth we encounter and engaging with them thoughtfully.
So we need to acknowledge individual experiences while also recognizing that some truths exist independently of our perceptions.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The final contrast from the video is the world's focus on happiness versus Jesus's emphasis on the importance of the soul.
Okay.
It seems like these days, everyone is chasing happiness.
Yeah. The world often tells us that happiness is the ultimate goal.
Mm.
Material possessions, success, pleasure.
Mm.
But Jesus, in saying, what good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul, cautions us against prioritizing worldly gain over spiritual well-being. It's a reminder that true and lasting fulfillment isn't necessarily found in external circumstances,
Right.
but in our relationship with God.
It's that whole idea of losing your life for my sake, you will find it.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
It's about recognizing that sometimes sacrificing our immediate desires or comforts for something greater can actually lead to a deeper, more profound sense of purpose and fulfillment.
Okay.
It's about aligning our lives with God's will, even when it's difficult.
Wow. This has been quite a journey.
Yeah.
I feel like we've gone from seemingly simple sayings to some really deep concepts about, faith and truth and what it means to follow Jesus.
Yeah, it highlights how important it is to go beyond surface level interpretations, to dig into the context and the nuances of these teachings.
Yeah.
It's about, engaging with our faith actively, questioning and seeking deeper understanding.
So as we wrap up here, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought to kind of ponder what other sayings or beliefs might we be attributing to religious figures without a solid basis in their teachings?
That's a good question.
It's a question worth pondering, I think, as we continue to learn and grow in our understanding of faith. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive,
Yeah, thank you.
expert.